Hello and welcome to Woodshed Reviews, where we look at films old and new, good and bad. And tonight we are looking at the new film from the Evil Dead franchise, Evil Dead Rise.
Eeny, meeny, miny, you.
Okay, so just out last night.
Yeah.
Went to see it, slept in it, back to talk about it. We'll do a sort of Evil Dead so far.
Go for it.
We had Evil Dead, Sam Raimi's debut feature in 1981. I guess the quintessential teenagers, cabin in the woods, doesn't end well. It doesn't end well for our hero Ash, played by Bruce Campbell in one of his first roles, I guess. Followed in 1987, I think, Evil Dead 2.
Dead by Dawn.
Dead by Dawn, yes, which was more of a remake.
It was, wasn't it? That's how I remember it. I wasn't sure if it was.
Yeah, basically, Bruce Campbell playing Ash again, but this Ash does not seem to remember the events of the previous film, and it kind of goes over a lot of the same beats and stuff, but adds a lot more kind of humour and madcappery into proceedings. So, and then we get on to possibly one of the most unconventional sequels going with Army of Darkness. More of a sort of fantasy, adventure, light-hearted, cartoony romp through space and time with a little horror thrown in.
Yeah, set in medieval times.
Yeah, so it's kind of gone all over the place at this point. That was the original trilogy.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. This is my boomstick!
Now, let's talk about how I get back home.
And then that was it, kind of lay dormant for 20 years or so. And then we had the inevitable 2013 reboot, remake, more of a remake possibly, a more serious tone, more in keeping with the original Evil Dead, I guess.
Yeah, I don't remember much about it, but I have seen it. It's pretty gruesome in parts.
And I think it's in here with us now.
So that led us on to another 10-year hiatus before last night. We got Evil Dead Rise.
It's me. Don't let it take my babies.
The fifth film in the franchise. A different director again. I wrote it down, I've forgotten his name.
So have I. Cronin.
Lee Cronin. So previously he directed The Hole in the Ground. More of a kind of psychological horror thriller, sort of like changeling child kind of thing. Going for something a little bit deeper, maybe not as deep as it thinks it is, but it was fine. So yeah, going into Evil Dead Rise from that same director, I wasn't sure 100% that felt like the right fit. But here we are anyway.
I went in not knowing anything about this film, what the plot was or anything. And I don't know, when I think about Evil Dead, I think about Bruce Campbell and slapstick comedy, horror. So I was hoping for a bit of that, but they kind of left the comedy aspect out.
Well, there's maybe some funny parts, but not intentional.
Yeah.
What can maybe get to? But yeah, it's a very different take on it in terms of, I guess, even the 2013 one was teenagers or young-uns out in the cabin in the woods, things go wrong. Mm-hmm. This one, although it's got a sort of pre-credit teaser that kind of is a little closer in tone or storyline to that.
Yeah.
We quickly shift to a sort of tenement building,
which is due to be demolished, and we join this family that live, I think, on the top floor. Yeah, so it's a single mother, and she has 3 kids. What are their names again?
I have no idea. Bridget's one of them, I think, is it?
That's right. Bridget, Danny, and Cassie.
Well done. Wow. Okay.
And the mother is called Ellie.
You've done your research.
Yeah.
Excellent. We kind of spend a little bit of time with them, but they get a surprise visit from the mother's sister.
Yeah, and they're kind of estranged, aren't they?
Yeah, she's the sister is Beth, who is our main character. She is a touring guitar technician with rock bands and whatnot, and she finds out at the start of the film, whilst backstage, that she's pregnant. She doesn't seem particularly thrilled about this, given her situation. So she quickly comes home to see her sister to confide with her. But before she gets a chance to, there's an earthquake, which reveals in the building car park a bank vault, which has been long buried for 100 years or so.
Yeah.
And inside that, one of the kids, the older boy, finds the Necronomicon.
Is it called?
It's not called no, it's not. And it doesn't have a face on the front of it, because that would be too silly.
The Book of the Dead.
He finds the Book of the Dead.
I mean, so is this a continuation of the series? I mean, it seems to be like a reboot.
I would have thought, yeah, this is just a complete a reboot of this. It's not even a remake, really, of Evil Dead, I wouldn't have said.
It's taking bits from the Evil Dead sandbox and then using a new setting, I guess.
Yeah, that's about my kind of like thinking on it as well.
Mummy's with the maggots now.
So yeah, the teenager takes us back home, opens it up. He plays there's a recording that he plays.
A couple of vinyls.
A couple of old vinyl records, and he's an aspiring DJ, so that was handy. And he plays an incantation, which in true Evil Dead form summons forth these spirits which rush towards the building. Unfortunately, the mother is in the elevator at the time, I think.
So as soon as she hits the ground floor, this evil entity hits her.
I found it.
Basically enters her, and
Yeah,
that's her.
that's her for the rest. Well, spoilers. That's her for the rest of the film. There's not much redemption there.
I mean, we know that from the trailer. She's
Our main villain, our big bad. Yeah. Well, we probably don't need to go into the whole story. It's quite a fresh film, but yeah, I don't think we've given anything away that isn't in any kind of trailer, or you don't learn in the first act or anything like that.
Yeah. So the whole film's set in the apartment, pretty much, which is great. I mean, the set design was awesome.
Yeah.
The photography, the makeup, all the gruesome effects was pretty top notch, I thought, throughout.
Aye, definitely, and it was hard to tell. It was a really good kind of. It felt like there was some practical stuff and some CGI, but it didn't. It felt nicely blended. Yeah, as you say, it all kind of takes place in this building, mostly with his family. There's a couple of neighbours who have small kind of parts in it, but they don't last too long.
No.
And there's some grisly ends, ahoy, as you would expect in a film like this.
Yeah, so basically we're with the whole family in the apartment. The mother comes back and she's not quite herself. And yeah, one by one they kind of start to fall, don't they?
It was the perfect day, and all I could think about was how much I wanted to cut you all open and climb inside your body so that we could stay one happy family.
Pretty intense.
It is, yeah, it is. It is quite intense, and I think it's helped by that single location. I mean, and they use the location kind of well, because they've got like scenes in the car park underneath, the lift, in the hallways, all sorts of things like that. So they're kind of like stretching it as far possible, given the confines. And I suppose the earthquake is kind of like cut off certain parts of the stairwell.
That's right, so they can't escape down the stairs. The lift's not working.
Yeah.
Stuck up high with this evil mother.
It's a nice idea, nice location and all that. I enjoyed that sort of change of scene, change of pace, maybe not change of pace, but change of scene. Kind of kept me guessing as to what was going to happen, who was going to live, who was going to die.
Because you mentioned earlier, right, Beth was the main character, but I think at this stage, maybe into the first, second act, we weren't quite sure who
Yeah.
the main character was. Like
Yeah.
anyone could have been, the next victim, I think.
Yeah.
And then it slowly materializes that Beth is going to be the kind of sole survivor or the hero.
Yeah, I thought that was nicely done as well. It reminded me a little bit, there's another bits as well, but it reminded me a little bit of Alien, where there's not an obvious, well, maybe even there is an obvious kind of protagonist, but it's not the one that emerges at the end. I guess we're totally into spoilers at this point now. But also, let's just say that not all the children survive and get out, which was...
It's pretty dark.
Yeah, and to be confronted with that with your own, effectively, the visage, I guess, of your own mother, and you're trying to kind of dislocate yourself from that thought process because you've got to do some unspeakable things to each other,
Yeah, and she's really evil, and she even tries to pretend to be normal to try and coax the wee girl to open the door.
Hey there, cutie pie.
You don't look so good, Mom.
Nothing a big ol' hug and kiss from you won't fix. Open up now, like a good girl.
And just the sort of psychological abuse that she's hurling at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
It's me.
One of my downsides about it is is it even really an Evil Dead film?
Yeah, I mean, it could easily have been something else.
It feels like it could have easily been something that's been repurposed in an Evil Dead film.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case. I'm not sure at all if that's possible. Even just some things about, like, I think we've kind of said that there's, despite like 95% of it being with his family in the building, there is a sort of a pre-title and a sort of end sting, which is a little more cabin in the woods type of thing with teenagers there. It's a bit dislocated from it, from my liking, and I think I don't know if it was necessary.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't really necessary. They were obviously setting this up for a sequel.
Yeah.
Because we have our sole survivor and the little girl at the end, and she's even got her chainsaw.
Yeah. We'll come to that then.
Okay. Yeah, so, yeah, obviously set up for a sequel, I think.
Yeah.
Further adventures. And they've got the bank vault kind of lore to kind of set up. So they could easily do a prequel as well.
Yeah, there's definitely all that in there, yeah.
A few avenues they could go along.
I think they're definitely planning that, because I think Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell were producers or executive producers on this, and they've definitely said things of that ilk, to the point that they're even trying to tie all the films together somehow.
Okay.
Which I think is a thankless task, really, because I don't see how you can put Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness in with the likes of this.
Son of a...
It's like putting Ace Ventura in LA Confidential, because
Right.
detectives,
Yeah.
But we'll see. With this film as itself, though, I kind of wondered if it had just been a separate entity and they'd taken out the sort of, like, the Book of the Dead, the chainsaw, the lines, like Dead by Dawn.
Everybody here dies by dawn, Dad.
And there's a couple other ones.
Come get some.
Come get some.
I'll swallow your soul!
Come get some.
There's no groovy or give me some sugar, baby, unfortunately.
Give me some sugar, baby.
Because I feel like I was tricked into going to see an Evil Dead film, and it was decent. It was as I think they said, it was decent. But for me, if it's an Evil Dead film, where's the fun?
Well, that's what I was hoping for, a bit of fun, and there's no laughs to be had. And there's some sick humour, but
That's not Evil Dead though. It's got proper kind of like crazy just throwing everything at the wall. Especially if you look at Evil Dead 2, I mean, that's just insane. Like, even in the first half hour, it's got more creative ideas going on in there than most horror franchises have across their whole lifetime.
It's insane. I mean, comedy is the hardest thing to do, and that film was incredible.
And so, yeah, I think it's a bit of a shame that if you're going to take the Evil Dead name and reboot it and stuff like that, that you're going to be so far removed from, like, the tone of the films, you know, and not have any of that. And I don't know, it's not like horror films are lacking in the cinema just now. There's plenty of horror films, so you'd think there'd maybe be an avenue for something a little more tongue-in-cheek and a little more fun.
You know, I enjoyed this film, but afterwards I thought, I don't think I'll be really watching this anytime soon. I would maybe go back to it depending on where they go from this film. If they made an interesting sequel or two, then I'll maybe revisit it. But whereas the Evil Dead 2, you can watch that anytime.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think I was caught in two minds coming out of it last night, where I was like, on its own, yeah, that's a pretty good film. It does have, I say it's not as creative or inventive, but I suppose the end kind of boss, if you like, is pretty gruesome and pretty creative and quite interesting, and shot in a way that could have been silly, but I thought it was quite well done.
Pretty good, yeah. Some sort of monster. It's like inspired by society.
Yeah, well, there's a running theme in it about motherhood. The two sisters, they talk briefly about their mum, and maybe she wasn't the greatest matriarch on the planet. Beth is struggling with the concept of her becoming a mother. That flourishes through the film as she kind of has to basically kind of like become a mother figure to the youngest girl.
Yeah.
Felt a bit of Aliens in there with Ripley and Newt when the young girl gets snatched away. She has to go back. I think she goes back shotgun and chainsaw in hand to rescue her.
That was a bit more gung-ho, kind of action-orientated, that last segment.
Yeah.
A bit more fun. Creeping in.
Yeah, but possibly, aye. I guess you can't kind of go about with a shotgun and a chainsaw without it being a little kind of goofy. But it's not done for straight-up laughs.
No.
As it is in the previous films. And yeah, so it's a mixed bag for me with this one. I was sort of, yeah, on its own, it's fine. And if it had been called, I don't know, Monster Zombies or something like that, and you went along to see it, I mean, I'll work on that title. You would have been like, yeah, that was fine.
I know.
It's an Evil Dead film. It feels, yeah, I think it's like it's too separated from it, and then they just chuck in, oh, Book of Dead, chainsaw. Do they say groovy? I don't think they say groovy. No.
What's happening to me, sweetheart? I don't know, Mom. I did. I'm free now.
I know. There's a lot to enjoy, I guess. But yeah. It's gruesome and it's intense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you kind of knew what was going to happen, and you're kind of waiting for it to happen.
With some parts, yeah, but some parts did kind of. I was a bit. I honestly thought more people were going to survive or something like that, you know. But I guess I don't know what's the age limit that you can kill a kid and it's okay. Well, we give Evil Dead Rise a Woodshed rating.
Gosh, that's a difficult one. I mean, it's a straight-out horror film. I mean, it's very effective. Really, performances are great. Cinematography's great. Direction's great. For me, if anything, it was maybe lacking a bit of soul, I think, or connection to the characters, especially Hero and the little girl at the end. You kind of.
It didn't feel like it had a connection. I was kind of saying about Ripley and Newt and Aliens, but
yeah,
that wasn't built up on it. And I think it was kind of similar to the director's previous film, where I thought it's got these kind of loftier ambitions to be a bit deeper than than it actually is.
Yeah.
Like in the hole in the ground, it's like, yeah, I get it. That hole in the ground's our psyche. Okay, got it. You know, and it's something similar with this. It's hinting at stuff, and I like that it doesn't hit you over the head with the mother stuff and all that, but it's still not quite built enough for me. So, did you give a rating?
No, I didn't.
Just rambling.
Yeah, I was just trying to find my rating. Yeah, I would give it a 3.
Yeah, okay. I feel like the last few episodes have just been copying each other, but yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 3 as well. And I'm trying to be objective about it because there is a little disappointment with it being an Evil Dead film. I think it just needed to remove itself from that.
Yeah.
I would have been happier with that, but then I might not have caught it. It might have went under my radar.
I think that's what brought people to the cinema to watch something, which is good.
Yeah, no, in this day and age, we're not going to complain about that, and I'm not going to be too haughty about that kind of stuff, you know. So, yeah, it got us there, it got us through the door, and it was a decent little flick. Fine Friday night scares, horrors, and yeah, good, decent enough.
Yeah, and it looked like a bit of world building going on, so we'll see what happens.
Well, what isn't an expanded universe in this day and age?
Yeah, everything has to be.
Yeah, you got to build all that in. So yeah, look forward to what's it going to be? Evil Dead Return, Evil Dead again, Evil Dead Dead by Dawn in a couple of years' time, no doubt. Okay, right,
Cool.
Well, that's all we've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers.